What's up, people? Welcome back to another explanation video. This time I'm going to talk about the hardest endgame bosses in AL. So yeah, I already done a Divine Beast and a Ancient Apostle, but now this one is more general. So it won't be including any low level stuff. It's all up there, like the 900s, the 999s. So yeah, with that being said, let's go over it real quick, shall we? Okay, so in no particular orders, and you can put them in however you want to be, and whichever is more difficult, whichever is less difficult. I'm not ranking them, so I'm just talking about they're all, in the same page, and they're all gonna be difficult, but we all know some of them are much more difficult. Depends on who you're fighting and, and how well you're doing against them. So that's why I don't put ranks into them, because there's no point. I'm not trying to rank whichever is the hardest in this game. They're all pretty difficult. So that's a quick note, and let's get this started. So the first one I want to talk about is Cobolor. Cobolor is definitely one of the very challenged endgame boss, at level 999, of course. I mean, there's no point talking about earlier, even though earlier on it's still pretty difficult, but it's just once you max that out, it just has more HP, and then that's pretty much it. It requires more accuracy, but if you use Zen Fighter, you don't have to worry too much. And the only problem was that like having little minions around is quite annoying, so gotta get that Heavenly Ages buff right off the bat quick, and then you can take care of it. And it's pretty tanky, and try not to get hit too much. Even if you have Heavenly Ages, you can still get hit after the buff expire, with the durations putting on extend for the buffs and extra couple seconds. But after all, like, there's a chance you're still gonna get hit, so it's definitely recommended to kill the boss before that, or hazard the others at the same time with AoE. And this is definitely one of the most challenged boss to max it out in the game. The next one I want to talk about is the Gleam. Gleam is actually quite a tough opponent. However, if you want to make it easier for yourself to level it up, just get a 5-star two-handed sword, or just the SP Demon Blade, the 4-star version of it you can get from any Ancient Apostles or level 900 Garuda. But Garuda drops, that stuff is quite low, so it's better off if you can get one Ancient Apostle, the easiest one, to max it out, and then farm for those gears. Now, Gleam is a very tough opponent if you let it buff, but then again, if you have high enough DPS, even with the buff, you can still kill it, so it's not really a big deal. And Gleam, the only difficult part about Gleam is if you want to kill it faster, obviously you don't want it to buff, but you have to hazard him really quick if it doesn't use the buff. So that's the only tricky part. And other than that, Gleam is still pretty challenged, and it is definitely a fun boss fight, except that when it buffs, it kind of sucks. However, there's one thing I want to talk about is some people, they do not like others if they let Gleam buff first. They want to do the right way, which means it's like, don't let it buff down him and kill him. To be honest, it does not matter at all. I mean, the two-handed is already powerful enough. You can kill it just as fast. So it's a waste of time to try to down it. Even when you don't have to, just don't. I mean, not down and hazard it before it gets the buff. So it doesn't really matter too much. It actually saves you a lot of time to not interfere with his buff and then kill it with a two-handed sword. It's really, really fast. So there is no point of trying to be like, this is the right way to play it. I mean, if you want to do it that way, go for it. I already done that many times back in the day, but now don't need to. And feel free to do the right way, I suppose, for some people. The next one is definitely the Skull Reaper. Skull Reaper is definitely one of the hardest boss in this game, and no doubt, because the amount of buffs he has, not just those two buffs, but those two buffs like reduce so much damage, And in order for you to do damage, you have to break the head first and then remove the buff, then down it, then kill it. If you don't remove the buff, it's not like Gleam Eye where you can just, do the same thing. Gleam Eye's damage reduction is a lot smaller. But Skull Reaper's damage reduction is practically at 90%. The minimum, I think, is somewhere 80 or 90 somewhat, but it's quite insane. You're pretty much not going to do much damage if you don't break its head. So it's just a long process where you have to do certain things in order to kill it, and it's definitely a long time to level up to the max. But once you get to the max, it's not easy to kill either. Like, you basically have to know what to do. So this is a very specific boss that requires very specific ways to do it. That's what takes some time to learn. And still, even if you do those steps correct, sometimes it still glitch out, even if you remove the head, and it still keeps the buffs. That's one of the bugs that still happen quite a bit of time, when I was trying to fight it a long time ago. But yeah, other than that, yeah, Skull Reaper is definitely one of the hardest boss in this game. Moving on to the next one, level 900 Garuda. That is definitely one of my favorite divine beasts to fight in the entire game, not because just it drops a lot of goodies for early on. If you don't want to level up your ancient apostles, it's also a fun boss fight too. It is very tanky. It has a lot of HP. At level 900, it has 1.4 billion HP. So when you boost up to 999, it will be at 1.7 billion HP. Well, the level doesn't really change much besides just accuracy and more health. But the point is, you don't really need to, move up the level. It's not gonna give you better chance of drop rate. It's just for more like challenges for fun if you want to do that. But level 900 is enough to kill and just to get drops from it. Although the drop rate is a lot less, but it's definitely recommend to use those boosters for the for Garuda if you want to farm for those 4-star weapons, the SP stuff. That's really good. Like probably the best endgame weapons. But I will cover that in another video. So this time I'll be just talking about bosses instead of weapons. And let's get back to it. Garuda is definitely a very strong opponent. It's probably the strongest divine beast out of all of them. Just to remember that, like, you have to use the siege buff where I made a video for it, because some of the enemies in this game, they have heavily damage reduction on certain weapon types, so you gotta have to use that to neutralize it. Then you can really hit more damage on any other weapon types. Some enemy only resist to certain type of weapons, like slashing. So that means any weapons that does slash damage, it's not gonna work on it. It's not gonna do too much. But use the siege would definitely help, and etc. So if you want to know more details about how that thing works, just watch the video that I talk about that buff specifically. But yes, Garuda is a very difficult boss fight, just because of the high level, more HP and more accuracy required. But you can also use Zen Fighter. Where you do that, it doesn't really matter too much who you're fighting, but you just have to have enough DPS to kill it. That's about it. Okay, so moving on to the next one. I have the Robin from the Matricaria, the DLC 2 on Supreme. The floor 1 Robin, the one that gives you the blue rose, the SP blue rose, for complete the ending. And that Robin is actually the easiest out of all 3 of them. So when I say easiest, it doesn't mean that it's really easy. I'm just saying that it's much easier compared to the other ones. So this one you can pretty much fight a lot easier compared to the other 2, because it does not have too many phases as in floor 100, and you only need to reduce its HP down to 50 for the third phase, and then the fight is pretty much over. But there's still a time limit during second phase, and that's the only problem that's gonna be challenged. So you don't really need like crazy amount of gears to take them on. It's always recommended to get at least one stainless steel sword. Now that is memory shop with the SP Forgive Me Not, you can definitely get that one, and then it should be fine if that plus a maybe a galactic jewel or whatever, it should work. It's not a fast killing process, but it works. Also, you can also get the SP weapons like the 4-star for other weapon type. It still can pretty much destroy that floor 1 Robin, and the boss is actually quite fun to fight, but the only problem is the time limit during second phase. Other than that, it's a pretty interesting, boss to kill, and you shouldn't have super hard time fighting it compared to the other ones. Now moving on, the next one, I got the floor 100 Robin. Now the floor 100 Robin, it is the real challenge when it first came out, because of the amount of accuracy you need and trying to figure out what kind of buffs to use against him and other stuff, timing and stuff, and didn't know what kind of weapons to use. But it's mostly like, it's just strategies. But now just pretty much figured it out, and it's not really a super difficult version compared to, day one when the DLC dropped. And floor 100 Robin has 4 different phases, so it's a one less than floor 1. You only have to worry about the second phase, where like the 50 seconds, I think, somewhere. So once you get past that, you got 5 minutes and you get infinite time. After that, you can just, run around and rebuff and kill it. So it's not like a super, insane fight or something. It's just more like trying to, stay alive. And you don't really need like a lot of, crazy weapons. But however, you do need to have at least plus 50 on your weapons. If you do have SP, the 4-star gears, it actually helps quite a bit. And don't go in there with 2 galactic jewel. It's not gonna be good. Even with 1 galactic jewel and 1 stainless steel, it was still barely beatable. So it's definitely recommended to get some sort of SP weapons. It's not just dual wield or anything, just other weapons works too. Since the shards are much easier to farm now, you can pretty much max out your gears, then go up there and fight it. It will save you quite a bit of time of running around. And the other thing is that just make sure you're prepared and go up there. Because if you go up there and you can't kill it, it's going to be a long trip to go back up there. So better be prepared than going up there and can't kill it, because even with the fastest trip to go up there, it still takes about 2 hours or so, more or less. And now they added the floor bosses, so you still have to go through those bosses, so it makes a lot more difficult. And the floor 100 boss is definitely a challenge, and just make sure you prepare for it, and then that's about it. Moving on, the next one, I have the Berkeley's ending Robin. Now that is the real deal. Presumably the hardest boss fight in the entire game. Like, you can put Kirito there, but Kirito is I would put Kirito before Berkeley's ending. But the thing is, I might as well get them all 3 out of the way and then just finish with the ultimate Kirito. Because like I said, I'm not ranking them, so it doesn't matter which order I start off with or finish it with. So back to the topic. And Berkeley's ending on Supreme is a real challenge, because you have to have some decent katana and gears to set it up. in order to beat it. You can't just have a garbage katana at plus 99 and expect to beat it. You actually have somewhat of decent or good katana to beat it. And the thing is that the Robin with Berkeley fight is definitely insanely difficult, especially the first time trying to beat it. And it was really challenging. And the best way to do it is literally going for multiple downs. Don't worry about one down kill stuff. You can do it too if you really want to, if you have good gears and good setups and good, knowing what buffs you use. And you can kill it at one down, but you have to have a really good katana and really good steel riding armors and really good accessories. That's about it. It's doable with one down kill. So I already finished it, so it's not like there's no other ways to do it, but it's definitely recommended to do the buff swap and run around, wait for the buffs to come back. If you take about like 3 downs to kill it, it's normally what it takes. 3 or 4, maybe enough time to squeeze in the 4th one, but you really don't have much time because the fight only has 10 minutes during second phase. So that's gonna be the real challenge, is the time, not the damage. I mean, also the damage is gonna be a problem if you don't have a really good katana. That boss is definitely insane. So other than that, you just have to rebuff over and over and kill it. So about 3 or 4 downs if you can squeeze the 4th down somehow. But normally the time runs out by the time you do a 4th down. But normally it's like 1, 2, 3 downs is enough to kill it, and that's pretty much it. 10 minutes is not a long time, but you can also do it without swapping gears, but you gotta have a really high accuracy katana. And to do that method, it is, oh my god, it was really hard because you have to dodge his move to get super arts, and you have to hazard him, and oh boy, that's a real challenge there. But like I say, no matter which way or which route you're gonna take to fight the Berkeley's ending on Supreme, it's gonna be a challenge. So just be prepared for it. Just making sure you have a very good katana, it will save you a lot of time. So it's definitely one of the most difficult fight in the entire game, if not the most. And like I said, getting a good katana is gonna be a problem, trying to fight it. And getting a good steel armor is not a problem. You have to fight him. So you kind of have to get 2 good gear to really do the amount of damage in order to kill him within the 10-minute marks. So other than that, it's not too bad. But once you beat it, you're pretty much done, because that ending is honestly the hardest one, out of all the bosses. But once you beat that, you're good to go. And everything else is besides the puzzle just takes time. They're not really like insanely difficult like the Robin endings. And yeah, the Berkeley one is definitely one of the hardest boss, if not the hardest in the entire game. Last but not least, I'm gonna end it with Kirito, the ultimate Kirito at level 999 in the memory arena. Now, Kirito is a definitely a fun matchup in any SAO. You're gonna fight Kirito no matter what, so it's like, not surprised. He's a very powerful opponent. You're gonna have to get some sort of gears in order to really challenge him. Whether it's plus 50 or plus 99, like I say, the higher the better, because it'll save you a lot of time. The amount of shards you can get nowadays compared to what it used to be, yeah, you could just go for it, just max it out. It doesn't take that long compared to it used to be. And Ultimate Kirito is definitely a tough opponent because he gets all the buffs from the AIs. And the other problem is when you try to down him, sometimes he glitch out and you can't down him. It is kind of like, is the ultimate Kirito, but they also feels like the ultimate buckiest Kirito. I don't even know that's a word or not, but it feels to me is so buggy rather than difficult, because there's a lot of time you're trying to down him and it's like, oh, it doesn't work. It's like he recovers so fast whenever you're about to down him. And other than that, it does require insane amount of accuracies, about 1600 plus. Different weapon uses slightly different accuracy, so just keep in mind that. Zen Fighter is always recommended if you don't want to deal with the accuracy problems, but you just have to get enough, buffs. Normally you don't have enough room to carry Galvanize, so you might have to dodge and get the super art that way and activate Zen Fighter that way too. But you also need another extra Galvanize. But besides that, and Ultimate Kirito is definitely a tough opponent, but if you kill it when you enter it, it doesn't really matter too much. But ultimately, if you run around and something, he will be pretty tough because he gets all the buffs and all the other stuff, and it's quite annoying. And so yeah, a lot of time, the one thing about one down in this game is that you're not gonna see a lot of bosses moves, because it's so funny. You can literally kill them and not knowing what they do at all. It's just that how it is. It's like you just don't see it, and that's why some of the moves you won't know until you actually use other weapons that where you can kill him that easily in one down, and you're gonna start to see that he does spam a lot of different things and etc. So definitely practice some dodging will help to get super arts and etc. because it is a lot helpful to learn how to perfect step, because every time you do a perfect step you get your art catch a little bit, or increase, and that way you can use the super art. And other than that, it's not too bad of opponent. It is still very difficult opponent for majority of the players. So to end it with that, that's what I really wanted, to end it with the Ultimate Kirito instead of Berkeley. I could end it with Berkeley too, but like I say, I mean, it's better off just get talk about all three different ones. Makes more sense than swap them. And other than that, yeah, these are the hardest bosses in AL. So yeah, I can't wait to see what kind of bosses they're gonna introduce in the next game, and we'll see how it goes. Certainly, like the level 999 enemies in this game, they are pretty tough, and some of them you have to take some time and learn. Like, where you gotta have, at that point you pretty much have to know the mechanics in order to fight them. So there's no other ways to it, and couldn't really you can't really beat them like you normally would do in the during the story and stuff, where it's all about learning the mechanics at that point. So these endgame bosses are very challenging. It does require you to learn buffs, customs, all that stuff. That's why I always mention in the videos, and it is very important to learn them. And other than that, that's pretty much it for this explanation video, and to talk about the endgame bosses. And I'll be talking about weapons and stuff in the other videos, so it's still gonna be quite a bit of explanation videos. And like I say, I will space them out and not upload everything at once. And some of the video projects I have to take some time to make them too. These explanation videos, sometimes it could take me a lot longer time to make than actually upload. So have to do find some image and etc. So other than that, yeah, that's pretty much it. I hope you guys enjoy it. Until next time.